Welcome to a new episode of Insider's View. Today we're here with William. He's the new BI manager for Merck. Will, welcome to the channel, man.
Hey, Peter. Thanks for having me, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, a little bit of the transition you just made and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite a whirlwind in the last, 3 to 4 weeks. I spent the last, 4 years at Air Canada as the business analyst back in 2016 up until now, doing analytics and BI and global sales.
Right.
And so that was a lot of fun. But obviously, with COVID and the interruptions that have happened, a lot of us got laid off, including myself.
Right.
And so quickly had to pivot and, look for a new job. And here I am at Merck.
There you go. So how long did that take you, by the way, roughly?
About a week.
About a week. So everyone, about a week. So we got the right guy to talk to about this.
About a week ago. No, it's been 3 weeks, but the entire process took a month. I had been looking, and the timing just worked out so well that I lost my job on March 30th, and then I got an offer letter April 3rd. So everything worked out quite well.
Awesome. All right. So let's get right to the nitty gritty. We have the big question. So, Will, if I were to take away your salary, all your savings, even your connections, and I brought you back to a 25-year-old, which wasn't that long ago. At least we're not that old, at least. But how would you get a job in today's world? Like that's the main question that a lot of students are asking us right now. How would you do that? And I don't feel that information is out right now.
It's a competitive market, to say the least, and obviously it's going to be exacerbated with COVID, and there's just going to be a supply of talent, good talent out there that's going to become available. And so I think what organizations are really looking for, and myself being in that position quite recently, they're looking for people who can onboard and make impacts quickly.
Right.
What this means for you guys as students is essentially you need to have the main and relevant skills that are applicable to your industry. And so in my case, in analytics and BI, it's all the technical skills. It's being sure you know SQL, that you know Python or R. And I know you guys are coming out of school and at 25, you're going, oh my God, like either I don't know any of these or like I know one, I don't know all. Does it really matter? Not really. As long as you know the fundamentals of, let's say, one coding language, you can easily pick up another.
Right.
The other thing I would recommend is showcasing tangible projects. This speaks directly to the experience that you'll have, whether it be academic or through your internships. You're able to demonstrate to your potential employer that you can come in and you can bring your skill. You've got experience in the field, i.e., the project and the internship, and you're able to size that impact that you're able to make. And that's probably the most important thing. Is a lot of people will, I know R, I know Python, I know SQL, I know Tableau, I've done this project. Well, what does it all mean?
Right.
And one of the key questions that comes up from time to time in interviews, actually it's a lot of the time these days, is what was your role in the project? It's great that you were a part of a team project, but what did you do specifically? What was your contribution? And if you can't answer that, or if you are not able to speak directly to it, or if you stumble, employers will kind of look, well, what did you really do?
Right. Did you just sign your name at the bottom? So
exactly.
Let's just go over to one. Let's go back to number one, right? So you're saying there are some skills, like I've been saying, that it doesn't matter to the student whether they're in comp sci, if they're in accounting, if they're in English lit, no matter what, there's going to be data, right? No matter where they work, especially when they're coming out of school. So I have been telling a lot of students, it doesn't matter, you have to learn SQL, you have to learn, Python, maybe not, but at least learn how to manipulate data in Excel, at least, and then maybe bridge into the advanced functions, pivot tables, etc., and then maybe even VBA. So how would you, let's go back to the basics, where would you learn these things? So I know, I think we all know, but maybe some students don't really know where to go to learn these things. So you don't knock on your professor's door and say, teach me Excel or teach me, SQL. So where would you go to learn some of these skills?
There's tons of great resources out there. Obviously, online is the most preferable because of its interactive capabilities. So I would look to DataCamp. I would look to Udemy.
Awesome.
I would look to LinkedIn Learning. I would look into any of those three, there's tons and tons of content.
Okay.
I think there's probably a bit too much. If I can recommend one over the other, it would probably be a combination of, there's also Udacity. That's the other one I wanted to bring up.
Udacity, yeah.
I
Coursera,
would
EDX.
recommend, yeah, exactly. I would recommend one that allows you to learn the base skill, but also to get a project out of it as well.
Yeah.
And so I think, so Udemy is really good for, having those instructors. Udacity is great for teaching you the skill and then applying it to the project, which is, again, comes back to having something tangible that you can present.
So that's, but my next question I just want to ask, which are, these are great, areas to learn, and I do side with Will on this, but regarding, what about the trust, right? Because hiring managers, especially right now, they either don't have the time to have these trust issues, and that's one of the reasons why university degree is still so prevalent right now, is established
Okay.
trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would someone who doesn't really, because again, the online courses are relatively new,
Mm-hmm.
EDX and Coursera are very, like, it's Microsoft, it's Google, it's, the top universities are also doing courses where that trust is still there. But then, Udacity and Udemy are, you and I can just do a course right now. So my question is, do you, especially as you're a manager, you're going to be having to hire shortly. Do you care which courses they use or which site they use? Would you care about the brand, or would you, or even if it wasn't you, because maybe you're a little bit more open-minded, do you think the brand would still play a part? Is my final question.
That's a good question. At the very minimum, I look for a university degree. That's first and foremost in any industry. In any role, you need to have, if we're talking BI and analytics, base business knowledge, base technical skills.
Right.
If you're, let's say, someone in finance and you want to pivot over to analytics, I actually think that's quite an advantage, because technical skills you can learn, but the mindset and the acumen and I guess what I'm trying to say is the variety of perspectives is welcomed and extremely appreciated in the analytics world. And so if I can get, a geographer, if I can get, a finance person and bring them into analytics, you get these wide, different, interesting perspectives.
Right.
To go back to your question, what really matters is obviously the university degree. If you can upskill and you can demonstrate that you have a skill set and you combine those two together, that would be preferable. I know some people have, for example, gone to McGill's continuing education to reskill, and obviously McGill is a world well-known, prestigious institution. So I look favorably upon that as well.
But so going about a little bit deeper, so like, Coursera is like, it does, Wharton School of Business, and they have these courses, and then Udacity is Peter Kurbelian and William Chan teaching. So I'm just saying, if I was a student, would I still want to use the same methodology of using the brand? And that, or, do we even couple that with, okay, I get the brand on the certificate, but then I use a project on Udacity? Like, is there how would you play that?
Personally, I don't really care much for brands. So if you're telling me, like, if you're coming in, you have a Coursera certificate, or if you have a McGill certificate, like,
right.
Obviously Coursera doesn't replace institutional level education,
of course,
but as long as you can demonstrate to me that you have the applicable skills, the projects to back it up, the business acumen, that's what matters the most. If you have, ambitions of, reaching higher goals, or, moving up later on, obviously I'll recommend, going into, a master's level program or accredited institution. But yeah, I would generally say, make sure you have the skills, you can present relevant and tangible projects.
So, and then going back to the next step, so after you got your skills, we'll go into later on, we'll do a recap, and you can say which skills you think would be prevalent. But going to the next step, what else can we bring to that table?
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was doing. So I was like, I thought you were gonna think, but no, continue. Don't worry about it.
I think one of the biggest things someone can bring to the table, aside from the hard skills, is some of the softer elements, like being able to read a room and understand where power comes from, especially in the BI analytics world, where often you'll have a data science project and you need to understand who you're presenting to, why certain elements of this project are relevant, and what's important for them.
Okay.
If you have all the technical skills, you're able to run the best models, you're able to get an R square that's not 1.0, but close to the whatever 80, 85 range. It's accurate. But if you don't understand what the goal of the project is and why, let's say, this model is important to the executive, well, then that project is basically meaningless. And so when I'm hiring, I look for a ton of different things, and I especially like people who have the strong technical aspect, but they need to come with a solid business acumen as well, and being able to, again, understand why this project is relevant, taking excerpts of this project and presenting it at an executive level, because at the end of the day, analytics is about making money or saving costs. It's about the business. It's not about how great the model is. It's making sure that you can have an impact on the business.
Well, I think that also just goes to everything, right? It's not just in data analytics. You need to understand the requirements from the executives. You need to understand what are the KPIs of the business, so key performance indicators for any students watching.
Correct.
You need to understand how they value you and what is the grade system that they're grading. Because in business, in school, we get a little grading sheet, right? Like, we're going to grade you here 10%, 15%, 5%. This is how we're going to grade. In the business world, we actually have similar things, except we don't get it on the first day of class.
That's it.
You just have to find out in the future. But I think it's great things to talk about. And I think when you reach out to people to talk about what are their pain points and things, you can use the same strategies as well as saying when you're speaking to people in the industry looking for a job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So we just use that. So we just put it into a aspect of how they can actually go get a job. Is there any other steps? So, Will, what would you do? You just graduated. You're upscaling yourself. You're understanding the business a bit more. You're probably getting some understandings of where they have pain. Now, what's the next step?
The next step, obviously, you need to attend events, and you need to speak to as many people as possible. Obviously, in a targeted fashion. Like, don't go into a networking event.
Wait. We don't apply online. We don't press apply now on LinkedIn. Is that not?
No,
I thought that's how we're taught.
No, that does not work.
Okay.
You need to be methodical in your approach and not just blindly submit your CV. I've done that in the past. Has it worked?
we all have.
No. It just, you end up with this sense of rejection, dejection, frustration. Why am I not hireable? But my skills are so relevant. I have all these great projects. So there is an element of being specific and being targeted, if you will. So it's not just about throwing your CV out there.
Right.
Industry events are extremely important, and meeting the right people. And sorry, I should clarify my comment. You need to meet the right people, because those people will ultimately, or hopefully one day, help you get that role that pops up that says, hey, like, oh my gosh, like, I'll give an example. Let's say you're attending a sports marketing conference, and you have background in analytics. You met one of the speakers there who's in charge of analytics for a sports franchise, and the opportunity has come up, right? How many times have we seen that, where we hear stories, oh my God, like exactly what I just described, and then boom, next thing you know, the person gets the job. Recruiters don't like to, I don't want to speak for recruiters, but having a pile of 1,000 CVs versus getting 1 or 2 or 3 that are recommended, obviously they're going to look, and I would look at the 3 that are recommended.
Well, that's why sourcing is so important, right?
Correct.
Let's speak recruiting talk. So the sourcing is them gathering, and if someone says no, if there's ever a model, if there's William, if there's Peter, says these are the 3 to look at, everybody's gonna be like, oh, so don't have to touch the 1,000. So, which is great news.
Exactly. I'm not gonna spend 6 hours a day looking at CVs if I can look at 3 in half an hour, right? So it's really just a time thing.
And the other thing to add is it also you whoever gave you that paper, you get the brand of that person, whoever gave you that paper, right?
Yeah, I got my second internship through a recommendation. So it wasn't even the person who I met. It was, I met the CPA at an accounting event, right? I'm a tech and data guy, but I went to accounting events because I had friends that were running them, and I just, was chatting up with a guy, and he had a friend who was in the tech world, a company called Gentronics,
Okay.
who specializes in medical rehabilitation. He said, "Hey, like, I think you'd be the perfect profile. They're actually looking for an intern this spring. Let me put you in touch with, with I think at the time it was the director of product." And so, yeah, the interview was basically going out for a coffee chat, talking about, my skill set, what I want to bring, and then meeting the team. And then next thing you know, I'm on the team.
So
So
you brought up something actually interesting that I want to bring up. Um, were you looking for that industry before someone brought it up?
the tech one, the
No, yeah, no,
Gentronics,
like, yeah. Were you at all looking at that industry at all?
not at all. I was there for, the free alcohol and the good time and some food. And next thing
and
I end up with the connection that gets
right,
me a job.
but nothing in an industry that you were focused on, that was not where you're going. But I bet you learned a lot. And
Absolutely. Yeah. I spent a good 3 months there, and I wouldn't have, had that experience if it weren't for attending that event on that night.
right. So the reason why I'm asking that is right now with so many industries that are pivoting, the ones that I remember when we met at a networking event as well.
Yeah.
Is the students were always looking at the big fours, especially where the students that we were networking with, they
Right.
were looking at the big fours, but the big fours are gone really till fall. They're not going to
Yeah.
really hire, from what I'm hearing. So how are those students going to be switching to go to other industries that they were not really looking at? And that's why I want to bring it up. You pivoted completely to an industry that you was not even on your radar, and
Hmm.
you're saying that you learned a lot. It pushed you to where you are today, and ironically you're back in pharma.
Yeah.
Which is
Back in the healthcare
back in
sector.
healthcare, which is funny. And even for me, I was a finance student. I went to engineering. I went to Pratt, right?
Yeah.
So it's just funny that I would even suggest, and using your words, is open your mind to new industries that may have not been what you were thinking of. And I was wondering, how would you feel about that as well?
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly always been my approach. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. During JMSB, I really wanted to get into sports marketing. There was a brief period where I was looking for work, and after doing more research, I actually realized, no, I really don't want to be in this industry.
Right.
Um, and I'll share a story where I actually, again, like everyone, I threw out like a million different CVs. Some came back, some didn't. Um, and I had this one gig in Calgary with FGL Sports.
Okay.
Went all the way to the last round. They flew me out and everything, and
Nice.
I was like, man, like I'm going to get this. Like this is amazing. This is business technology. This is data. This is retail, sports. So FGL is like all the different sports brands, like Sports Expert,
Okay.
Hockey Experts, etc. I was like, this is perfect, and it didn't work out. And I was like devastated. And then a couple weeks later, I'm sitting at a cafe talking with a friend. I'm going, man, like I'm so dejected. Like there's nothing out there. Like I have relevant skills. What's going on? And then the email comes in from Air Canada, and this is one of those applications. I hope my boss never, or my ex boss, doesn't watch this, because this is one of those where like I threw out the CV. I didn't even know. It's like you apply and you forget about it. And then so I
Right.
get the email. I'm going, oh, when did I apply for this? And what's the job description? And so I like look back on
You
LinkedIn
had to
because
go
I
all
took
the
down the
research it.
posting. I was like, what's this job? And so obviously I took the interview and I spent a great 4 years there, but and by no means do I recommend throwing your CV out there like I did. It doesn't doesn't always work out. But in this case it
but
did.
but but
And
the silver lining is what?
the silver lining is that, I ended up exploring a new industry where I like had no thought about even considering when I was at school.
Right.
And obviously that's the airline sector. And I've always been, passionate about planes, interested about where they go and travel, but not to the extent that I really thought it would, uh, that I did. And so I guess the kind of like the moral of the story is like, don't throw your CV out there blindly, because you may end up with an interview that you'll forget about.
Right.
But it's also be open to whatever comes your way, especially when you're graduating right out of school. You may have this industry in mind that you really want to get into, and I 100% encourage you to pursue it to the end. But if it doesn't work out, I mean, first of all, if it works out, great. That's the best case scenario. But if it doesn't, be open. Be open to any industry, whether it be
Yep.
healthcare, pharma, airlines, financial sector. Um, I'm in the beginning stages of my career right now, and I'm trying to learn as much as possible. And I think that's the key takeaway: is be open and learn.
Yeah. And I was even going to add, you make your job. Like you get the job description, but you can shape it the way you want it. The more you learn, so it's a great
Absolutely.
opportunity. I did the same at Pratt. I remember being at
Yeah.
Pratt. I'm like, I remember them asking me in the interview, "What do you know about airplane engines?" I'm like,
Nothing.
and I'm like, "But I know finance, and you guys don't like finance." They're like, "That's fair. You come on."
Exactly.
But so that's it. Honestly, Will, I think that's great information. Let's just do a quick recap for all the students that are watching, just because we did some of our funny stories. So number one, we said upskill. Do you have any skill
Yeah.
sets that you would suggest some? Doesn't matter the industry, just like a base skill set upgrade, or make sure a list that they should have.
I think because we're in such a data heavy world these days, whether you're in finance or accounting, or actually in BI and analytics, you need you need an SQL. You need to learn one type of programming language that will allow you to pull, construct, manipulate data,
Okay.
because the world is becoming more data driven.
Okay. Anything else? Even a soft skill or
Soft skill, I would look for business acumen. Um, I think a lot of people tend to favor. I should make sweeping generalizations. I myself tend to favor those who can understand the business
right.
and can use their particular skill set, whether it be finance, accounting, HR, or analytics, to better the business unit.
Okay, sounds good. So, and number two. So, what's the takeaway for number two?
Number two, bring your projects. Bring any type of
Okay.
tangible work that you've done, whether it be academic or an internship, so you can demonstrate that you've got the relevant experience, even though it may be limited. It could be valuable for the company, and it allows you to showcase that you're qualified, and you, like, at the end of the day, you're a student. They're not going to be expecting you to have, like, 5 years of whatever is you're working on. The very base minimum is okay, and then at the end of the day, you'll learn, you'll grow, and they'll work with you.
Perfect. And number three. So I said, I think it's your be open part. So just elaborate on that a bit.
Yep. Number three, be open to anything and everything, right? Be open to going to events, meeting new people, talking about anything under the sun, to be honest. But obviously you want to meet the right people. And I think part of that is luck, but it's also in the events that you attend, or the events you choose not to attend, right? You miss out on opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise gained. And so what I would say to that is, be open to the people, be open to learning new skills, be open um, to industries, keep that mindset open, especially when you're graduating. There's so much out there, and the goal in the next, let's say you're 25, we'll anchor it there, in the next 5 to 10 years, is to learn as much as possible.
Awesome. So thank you so much for your time, Will. So for everyone, you should add Will. He's a great guy. He's always at events with me, helping out students. So he's great. You should add him on LinkedIn. We'll put his link down below. Will, thank you for your time, man. Hope to see you when everything gets better.
Absolutely, Peter. Thanks for having me. Always great to chat with you. And like Peter and I are always at events. If
Yep.
you come across us, come and say hi.
Of course. All right. Thanks, guys, everyone. Bye.